You're never too busy, too tired, too old, or too anything to pursue your dreams. Welcome to the Distracted Dreamer podcast, where you'll learn how to move all those never-ending distractions aside and chase your dreams with confidence. Hello, fellow dreamers. I'm your host, Carlene, and I'm so happy to just sit down with you and have a chat today. And I want to give you a high five for showing up here for yourself and for your dreams. So today, my goal is to help you take the pressure off when it comes to those dreams, to lighten the mental load and to release you from some of those very heavy expectations. Because what if chasing a dream didn't have to be so serious? What if you didn't have to figure it all out right away? Or what if, instead of worrying about getting it right or wondering if you're going to fail, what if you just got curious? The real question here is, what if your dream was an experiment, not a test, not a one-shot opportunity, just something to try, something to explore, something to learn from? And there's something so freeing about that shift. Because suddenly the pressure drops, the stakes don't feel so high, and you're allowed to play. So that's where we're going today, into the art of experimenting with your dreams. Now, one of the biggest blocks that I see in clients, with my friends, and myself, is this idea that you've got to get it right on the first try. But here's the truth. Dreams aren't built in a straight line. I always tell my clients, this is not a linear journey that you're on. Dreams are discovered through motion, through taking action. And one of the most powerful frames that I've learned, and one that I use all the time in my work, is thinking of your dream like a series of tiny experiments. Because an experiment, it can't fail. It only tells you something new. Now, whether it turns out how you hoped or not, it still gives you information. It gives you direction and insight, and even some surprises. So instead of saying, I failed, you get to say, that didn't go how I expected. I wonder why. Or, this part felt exciting, and we want more of that. Or, oh wow, that really drained me. Well, that's good to know. So it's like becoming a scientist in your own dream life. Let's get specific here because this all sounds great in theory, but what does experimenting actually look like in real life? Let's say you're thinking about a career change. Maybe you've loved food and you cook a lot and you play around in the kitchen and you come up with your own recipes and you thought it would be so cool to be a chef someday. Maybe you reach out to a friend of a friend of a friend who owns a restaurant. You grab a coffee, and she invites you to help out in the kitchen on weekends. That's an experiment. And maybe you discover that you love it, and suddenly ditching your corporate job, that doesn't sound so wild. Or maybe you realize, yes, you love working with food and making it beautiful, but the restaurant world is not your thing. It's too chaotic. It's too many late nights. Okay. So maybe you have a new experiment. Maybe you try something from home or teaching others how to cook. Who knows where it's going to lead? Here's another example. Maybe your experiment is that you want to start journaling. So you try waking up 30 minutes earlier for a week to give it a shot. And maybe you learn that mornings just aren't it, like your brain is still booting up. Or maybe you discover that actually you don't like journaling. So no matter how much you wanted to be the person who journals, that's a good thing to know. Or how about this? Maybe your dream is to feel more connected, to find your people, the ones who get you. You start a book night with someone that you kind of know, not a best friend, but someone you've had a few good conversations with, and you both love the same genre. You pick a book and you set a date and you see what happens. That's an experiment. Or how about this one? Maybe you have a creative or an entrepreneurial dream. Maybe you've had this idea floating around for a while. Maybe it's a workshop or a coaching offer, or maybe it's a handmade product. So you decide to test it out in a really simple way. You invite a few friends or some past clients to try a beta version for free or at a lower rate. That's an experiment. And maybe you love it. Maybe it lights you up in a way nothing else has, and you realize, oh, wow, this is the thing that I've been circling around for years. Or maybe you realize it was close, but not quite right. The content was fun, but you didn't love the format, or you enjoyed making the product, but you hated managing the logistics of getting it out the door and shipping it. That's all valuable information. That's data. And then you do another experiment, and that experiment will get you even closer. Now, none of these are all or nothing. They're just little experiments. Low stakes, they're full of possibility, and it's a bunch of information gathering. And the beauty is, whatever you learn, it's useful. Okay, all of those examples, those are helpful, and they show how experimenting can be small and doable and even a little fun. And I want to share a story from my own life, because I think sometimes the most powerful experiments are the ones we don't realize we're running until we look back on them. Now, I didn't realize it at the time, but one of my earliest dream experiments, it happened my very first year of college. I had started out as a journalism major, and my mom always said I could be the next Barbara Walters. And honestly, that kind of lit me up at first. It sounded really exciting. But then I started taking classes, and I started really paying attention to the media. And what I noticed, even back then, was how sensationalized it all was. How every network and newspaper had its own agenda. How people who were hurting or vulnerable, they were often exploited just for a headline. And how privacy, it just didn't matter. And I had this knot in my stomach that wouldn't go away. And I vividly remember I was in my apartment and my phone rang, and I nervously picked it up, and my dad was on the other end. And mind you, this was before cell phones, when long-distance calls, they were expensive. So he used to call me once a week during his lunch break from work, every week like clockwork. And sometimes the day would change depending on my class schedule, but the ritual stayed the same for 4 years. So in those calls, they meant the world to me. It was just me and my dad. And to this day, I hold them so close in my heart. They were my little anchor when I felt homesick or unsure of myself. And I remember telling him on that day, Dad, I don't think I have the stomach for this. And I was so afraid of disappointing my parents. But you know what? They totally supported me. Yeah, I ended up switching majors, and I figured it out from there. But looking back, I realized that year was one big experiment. And here's the thing. The most valuable data I got from that wasn't just what I didn't want to be, the kind of journalist that I didn't admire, the work I didn't feel proud of. The real data, it came from me, from my heart, from my gut, from my values. I didn't push through. I didn't override what I knew deep down. And I am so grateful for that. And that's something I want to pass on to you. When you treat your dreams like experiments, you're going to gather all kinds of information. And not just from the world, but from your own inner wisdom. Listen to it. Because that data, it doesn't lie. And you know what? I see this all the time with my clients too. In our very first session, our consultation, I always let people know that showing up to our sessions is essential, absolutely. But the real work, that happens in between. That's when you're out there in your real life, experimenting, trying new things, and learning what works for you. That's where the change happens. And one thing I'm very clear about in my work, especially with clients who have ADHD, is that we don't use the F word. There is no failure in coaching, only experimenting. Because the truth is, so much of the process, especially for ADHD brains, is learning how to stop fighting yourself and start working with the way your brain actually works. So that might mean running an experiment that's really simple on the surface, but it can lead to huge shifts over time. So here's what a client might say. A client might call me and be like, hey, I need some help managing my priorities. There's just never enough time. Okay. So we start very surface level. We start trying the tools, the planners, the calendars, the reminders, all the usual suspects. But like I said, that's just surface. What really moves the needle is when we start paying attention to energy. We run an experiment. So my client will try to do certain tasks at different times of the day. My client will notice when it feels like pulling teeth and when it just flows. She'll notice and track what energizes her and what drains her. And that's data. That's information. That's gold. And that experiment, it's not just about productivity. It's about the dream of living a life where you feel in control, where you have clarity and a whole lot of self-awareness, and where your life feels like it was actually designed for you because it actually was. That's the power of experimenting. So let me ask you, what's one small experiment you could try this week? Not to prove anything, not to get it right, just to learn more about what actually works for you. Maybe it's shifting your schedule in some way. Maybe it's saying yes to something you've been curious about. Or maybe it's saying no to something that's never felt right. Whatever it is, just let it be light. Let it be playful. Let it be an experiment. And if you're feeling that little tug, like, ooh, now's the time to start listening to your dreams again, I want to tell you about something that I've been dreaming up just for you. It's an online membership community called Dream Studio. It's a space designed especially for women 50 and better. Now, I'm not going to check your ID at the door, okay? That does not happen. If you're in that season of life where you're ready to finally put yourself and your dreams back on deck, you'll feel right at home here. This is for the women who spent all the years showing up for everyone else and are ready to start showing up for themselves again. It's for those of you who are craving creativity and connection and community and to get some clarity and to have zero pressure to have it all figured out. Right now, I'm building the founding member group, and I'm inviting you to join us. And when you do, you're going to get early access, you're going to get special founding member pricing that lasts a lifetime, and you'll get some one-on-one coaching with me. And best of all, you'll help shape the Dream Studio from the ground up. Now, if that sounds like your kind of space, go ahead and hop on the wait list, because you got to be on the wait list to be part of the founding member group. How does that sound? So the link, it's in the show notes, and there's no fee to sign up or anything. Just go sign up, and then you will find out when I open the doors for all the founding members. That's how simple it is. The founding members are going to be the heart of this community, and I would really love for that to include you. For now, I am encouraging you to just trust your gut and to follow that curiosity and keep experimenting. And most of all, keep dreaming. And I hope to see you inside Dream Studio real soon. All right, my sweet friend. Thank you so much for being here with me today. And remember, your dreams, they are waiting for you. And your time, it's now. And I'll be back next week, ready to welcome you to our next conversation. Oh, and one more thing. This is the legal language. You know, the stuff that the lawyers put together, and they say that I need to read this to you. So here we go. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. I'm just your friend. I'm not a licensed therapist. This podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified professionals. Got it? Good. I will see you in the next episode.